911 Future Makers podcast is really about, not so much about next generation 911, but building the next generation of 911 leadership and employees. And in order to do that, it's important that we properly train our people, provide the tools to do their job. And when I think about training, the number one person that comes to mind is my guest today, and that's Wooten ENP, who is NENA's training director. Welcome, Ty. Great to have you on a podcast. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Thanks so much for having me, Fletch. It's always great to come and see you and chat with you about what's going on in our industry.
You know, I was reading your bio just to brush up, and you've got a lot of different certifications to be an instructor in a lot of things, and it's really pretty impressive. And I didn't know, I knew you were a firefighter, but I didn't know you were a hostage negotiator.
Yeah, that was a part of my life that was pretty interesting. I started off, I helped to form the emergency communications, tactical dispatch team for the sheriff's department when I was there many years ago. And I had a very good and guy who was happened to be my, corporal at the time, who was one of the negotiators. And we were on a couple things together, and he's like, this is great what you're doing for tactical dispatch and all of that, but you have a keen capability of getting people to talk. And so we'd like for you to get a little bit more experience and get some training and do some of that. So I went through a bunch of classes, and we did a lot of exercises and training, and I had a couple opportunities to do it. And that actually, I was able to do that also when I was at Indianapolis International Airport. There's this incredibly terrible story once that one Saturday afternoon when I was at the airport, we'd just gone out shopping, and I had come home and was testing out a new knife and on some French bread, and sliced my finger pretty badly, and blood was pretty much flowing everywhere. And about 5 seconds after I did that, I got a text message that there was a hostage situation at the airport. And I told my wife, I was like, we've got to go. And so we wrapped up my finger, and she drove because I was in really no condition to drive, but I don't know what I was thinking I was going to be able to do when I got out there. But we only had 2 negotiators, so we had to do it. So luckily, we sped off, got on the interstate, and got about 5 miles down the road, and got the all clear that it was a mistake. And Carrie just got to the next exit, went off, turned around, got back on the interstate, and went back to the hospital where I got 9 stitches. So it's been an interesting time. I think it's been, I look back at the training that I've got from that and how I've been able to use that training in leadership positions, and, really throughout my career. And even after I left the PSAP, understanding that listening is probably way more important than talking is something that I think a number of us forget. We're really anxious to tell people, something that you've experienced or your side of things or why you think one way or the other, when really we should be listening to each other more. And if we do, we'll gain better understanding and appreciation for each other. And that will help us in not only our professional careers, but life in general.
I was looking back, and I think you and I have known each other for probably 13, 14 years now. And I'm going to ask you a personal favor because of your credentials here in hostage negotiation. I've been held hostage for 22 years to a person, and I'm wondering if you could talk to them. Now, of course, I looked around to make sure she was nowhere
She was not around.
before I said that.
Yeah, you might have gotten something thrown at your head, right?
Yeah, it might have turned into a 911 call. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't do marriage counseling. I draw a line there.
So you've been in this industry for a long, long time. I think what you do at NENA is probably one of the most important roles. There's a lot of important roles, but really that training role is critical into what I think is important, and that's building the next generation of emergency communications management, leadership, telecommunicators, the whole ball. I look at, you and I are getting pretty old, right? The people that we know, we're not going to die tomorrow, but
No.
we are getting up. I can see the sunset out in the future.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to have done all this work and then have everybody go, well, now what do we do? Right?
Right.
So I think it's our mission to build that next generation of replacements. And that's why I really think training is critical, especially at this time where technology is changing, the tool sets are changing, the thinking is changing. We've got more incidents to look back on and say, that worked, that didn't. We need a change.
Right.
And it's a constant learning process. And your role is critical in managing all of that.
Yeah, you're spot on in the fact that, one, I think we do have a responsibility to make sure that we are training and mentoring that next generation. It's not just getting them the information, but then taking that information and saying, okay, how can we apply that? What can we do? How can you take this bit of information and make that into a tool that can create change within your organization or help propel you to that next level? And, I think that's sometimes been the misnomer in training in public safety. We train people and then we don't do the validations. We don't make them do a test. We don't validate or follow up with them a few months later and say, have you been able to take that information we gave you and apply it to your job, and what was the outcome, and those lessons learned. You're right. I'm not, we obviously we do have more incidents than we did when you and I were taking calls back in the 1800s. But right
I took calls so long ago, it was just one, not 911.
Yeah. But I think also that the benefit that we have, I always think about, one of Admiral Rickover, his rules when creating the nuclear navy, was that we have to learn from lessons and benefit from lessons of the past. The best part about where we are today and the connectedness we have with social media and just the ability to share information is now we don't have to actually experience the failures or the lessons where something went wrong ourselves. We can benefit from being able to share information and say, even though it didn't happen in my jurisdiction, this incident occurred and the outcome occurred over there. If that same thing were to happen here, how could we respond to it? How could we apply our policies, our procedures, our protocols, our training, and make that different, have a different outcome? And that, I think, is one of the best things that we have the benefit of today that we didn't have 15, 20 years ago. If we didn't experience it ourselves, or if it didn't happen in our local kind of sphere of influence, we just didn't know about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think back, on the training that I got, and we're talking 40 years ago now, which that makes me sound a lot older than I think I am. I don't know.
You started when you were 4, right?
Something happened with math in the middle there. But, my training consisted of, hey, Fletch, there's the phone. When it rings, answered. Push this to talk to the radio units out on the road. There's the map. See you later. Have a nice shift.
Yeah. I was very similar. It was there's the phone, there's the radio.
Don't screw up.
Well, it was something else, but we won't say that on
Right,
the recorded broadcast.
So and I look at what just the testing that goes into before you even get hired, and I look at one of the other problems is you have X number of people test. And then you've got a very small percentage of that get hired. And then you have an even smaller percentage that make it through the training without saying, this ain't for me. And then you've got the people that don't get vetted because of something that they don't pass clearance. And you've got this microscopic sliver of staffing that actually makes it to the job. And now you got to keep them, train them, and foster that seed that grew. So I got a pack of 1,000 seeds, and I got a couple that I can actually plant. What is the percentage today? Do you know?
I don't.
It's a moving target, I know.
It is a moving target, and I hear it when I'm out training, and I hear people say, if we hire 10 and we keep 2, we're feeling like it's a success.
Yep.
Which kind of makes my heart break in a number of ways. And I'm constantly looking at that from a perspective of, to me, it's one of 2 things. And I always say this when I'm out training and talking to leaders in our industry, and that is, if you have a turnover rate in your new hires that is pretty low, or pretty high, so meaning that you're keeping just a few out of the numbers that you hire, it's a factor of 2 things. Either you're not doing the proper testing in advance to find the right people, or it's a part of your training program and something is lacking there. You got great people, but you're not able to provide the right training and give them the concrete base to get them to move and continue on. So it's a couple different things. I think there's a third factor in all of that, which is one of the things that I think we and our profession in the 911 industry in general have a failure at, and that is being our own advocates. And so sometimes it's not about the fact that we don't test well, or we aren't testing the right types of things for hiring new people. Sometimes it's just the fact that we don't let enough people know that we are hiring and that this can be a fabulous career. I always am talking about any public event, right? If you're, I always think about like fairs, and I know in the last year, we've not been able to do a lot of outreach, but you have fairs and festivals and things that are going on in your communities, or, September, October, when the firefighters, do fire prevention month. If your center is going and you're setting up a booth to talk about 911 to kids, then you should have at least 2 people there. One to do the temporary tattoo on the kid, and the other person to talk to mom or dad and say, have you ever thought about a career in 911? We just are not our best advocates a lot of times. We like to be behind the scenes. We like to be kind of the mushrooms of public safety. And I think for us to get more people interested, we've got to do a better job of letting people know what we're capable of and what this career can be. I mean, what you and I have found in this family of 911 is incredible. And it's an amazing blessing. And there's a lot of people who might find a lot of joy in what we do because we do make a difference. But we got to they don't know about it. They just think that it's a part of something else.
You're absolutely right. It is a family. And when I talk to people like Hank Hunt, and he said, what he says is the 911 embraced us like family with our problem. And I look back at the events he's attended, and talk about a total outsider, right? He's involved in 911 because of the tragic death of his daughter, but the entire industry just sucked him in like a distant brother, and not just him, the entire family.
Right.
And Brianna, who was the 9-year-old that couldn't dial 911, on the 50th anniversary of 911, when, on that day, we were at the White House getting the law signed, and then the family went to the event. She was walking around saying, "I'm a rock star."
She is. And Hank,
Hank couldn't find her all night, but he knew she was safe because she was with some group of people that just had her surrounded. But that is so great. It's so heartwarming to see that. And I think the public needs to understand, that's what this community is about. We're tight because of that community.
Right. I mean, we are tight because, we do learn from the lessons of our past, right? We do recognize that there are issues. I think about, Nate and the Denise Amberly Foundation and what they've been able to do. I mean, there was a lot of people who immediately just said, yes, we've got to do better. And it's taken some folks time to heal, to get to a different level. And come around, and that's fine because it was close to them and it was hurtful. And I think about the Kyle Plush family and what they're doing, and I love the fact that they're not pointing a finger but trying to raise awareness and praise for what we do and say how much they appreciate what's going on and what we're trying to accomplish. And so people like Hank, who, just are this tireless person who will just continue to beat the drum until some change is there. And I appreciate them so much. And my heart goes out to all of them because we had failures, but we didn't just shy away from them. We stepped up and said, yes, there was an issue here and we've got to make it better. And we continue to do that. And that's that leadership that we're talking about, being willing to step up and say, we did have a failure. I mean, we all have that. I mean, part of our job is identifying it. Personally, there are things that I have done, we haven't communicated well enough or, done what is maybe expected. I did it in the best of intentions, but realizing that those failures are there and then recognizing them and getting to figure out what can we do to fix it? How can we take that next step? Those are the types of things that the resiliency that we teach, and the willingness to just jump back into the fray and keep going. And that's really what we need to do more of, because I think sometimes people shy away from the difficult conversations or shy away from being willing to look in the mirror. And true leadership really comes from first looking in the mirror and saying, would I follow me? If you want other people.
That's a great point.
if you want other people to follow you, and you want to lead people, you've got to first understand, are you worthy of being followed? And that's a key element to great leadership for sure.
That's a, you know what? In every one of these podcasts, I always find at least one or two nuggets that are just brilliant. And let me tell you, that's going on definitely on the list for this podcast. You know, be proud to follow yourself, and if you're
Yeah.
doing that, you're on the right track. That's fantastic, Ty.
Yeah, because if you're looking at the mirror and you say, maybe I'm doing some things that wouldn't be worthy of being followed, then that's time to stop and say, what do we got to do to fix it?
Well, I don't know about looking at a mirror. So I'll say I'll look at what I do and go, yeah, that's good. Now looking at a mirror, that's a whole, because I'm working with this, dude. Okay, there's
Yeah,
only so much
trust
I
me.
can do.
Trust me, I'm clear.
Where do you see this industry going with technology and affecting the staffing profile, if you will?
I think that's such a great question, because I think that the future of 911 is, we're standing on this precipice, and we're not really sure, as much as we know, we don't even really know what's going to be on the other side of that door, or when we take that leap off that ledge. Because it is going to change. I mean, the whole dynamic of things is going to change. Video, pictures, live streaming data, live streaming video from cameras, and all of those other things, and the technology of things are going to be changing. Obviously, there's going to be interactions with more computers. It was, I'm an artificial intelligence. I was watching a thing. I live in Indianapolis, so all things racing is important to me. Yesterday, they announced the autonomous challenge at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this October. They're going to have Indy cars racing around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at 200 miles an hour, fully autonomous.
Oh my God.
And it's, the brainchild of the guy who won the DARPA challenge in 2005, when they went through the desert at 5 miles an hour. Now, how can we, the only way to leap forward is to put a challenge out there for $1 million, see who can win, and take these amazing cars and go faster. And I kind of think that we're right at that precipice too. We have been working diligently on building next generation 911 over the last 20 years, and working on the standards and the development and bringing all of those things together. But I think we're at that point where now we have to put this challenge out there to actually see how we're going to bring all of these things to fruition. It's been so esoteric, and kind of, we realize we can do it, and the art of the possible. But now it's time to actually see what this is going to mean, and how that it relates to staffing, and how that relates to how do we hire people, and who do we hire, and the kind of knowledge, skills, and abilities it's going to take to be able to manage these types of things. I see a bit of a shift in those KSAs for the future, and being able to manage teams of people that are much larger. I think it's going to take more people to do what we're doing. To a certain extent, it may move positions around, but I see a whole lot of change coming, and I think leaders today have got to be prepared for and willing to open up to that change that's about to hit us. square in the middle of the head for sure.
So we're getting well into the podcast. So this is where the Fletcher questions come in. Buckle up. This is where people are going to go, wait, he's not really going to go there, is he? Yeah. So there are people that are out there that are saying that in the next 5 years, the number of IoT-initiated requests for service will outweigh the number of phone calls coming in. So at some point in the future, we're going to cross this imaginary line where things like AI may become our primary call taker.
Yes.
That's way in the future. But you know what? Yeah. If the trend continues, that's where it's going, right? So that's a very difficult thing to say to a call taker today, because their immediate response is, well, what's my role?
Right.
And I think it's there, but it's different than what today is. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. I think, and here's the best part about this. Even though AI is quick learning, and if set up properly, it will learn itself better ways to handle things over time, but it takes a lot of those inputs. In the near term, it's going to take a lot of humans to oversee all of the decisions that the computers make, number one. Number two is, at some point, there's going to be this flip of AI may be taking some of those calls. I call them calls. I think I will always call them calls.
Right.
Or, initiated information requests. But it still takes the ability of a very strongly trained person to manage that incident, because it's still going to require people to go out and do those things, right? We may deliver things in different ways. We may be able to deliver an automatic external defibrillator to someone's house via a drone, but it's still going to require somebody to get that AED and attach it to somebody, and then do what's needed next. And you're still going to have that person who's communicating with them and giving them those instructions, and recognizing that even videos may replace part of that, right? That we may be able to say, if at this point we're going to send a series of instructions to that person via their phone or that device, but we're still going to need to monitor and be able to answer questions if they come in and how they come in. So, I think that there's always going to be a place for a human in emergency response, and especially in the 911 center. It is the central nervous system to all public safety, and without it, public safety falls apart. And I think that no matter how good the AI is going to be in the future, we're always going to have plenty of opportunities, plenty of people who are needed to do the work that it's not going to be exactly the way it is today, but the work that's going to be needed at that time, for sure.
I like to correlate that to TurboTax or whatever. Right? A lot of people still go to accountants, but there's a certain amount of people that go, you know what? Now I don't even have to file my W-2s. I go in, I log in, all of it's downloaded electronically, and I just go, here's your number. Yep, that looks good to me. Click, done. Right. Accountants have been replaced at a certain level, but there are still plenty of accounting firms that are out there.
Exactly.
The fact that I know how to do math, I don't do it well, but just because I use a calculator doesn't mean I don't know how to do math, or it's not important. So again, you have to put these things in perspective, And a
Right.
call taker may not be sitting there, 911, where's your emergency? That is going to change.
Right.
And a couple of things I look back on that I've brought up actually on recent videos. But one is the Chevron refinery fire. I've got a recording of that incident. And it starts out with the call taker, hey, Chevron. And I'm trying to figure that out. And then I realize, oh, it's a ring down line to the PSAP.
Right.
The PSAP knew it was the Chevron ring down. Hey, Chevron, what's up? And the guard or whoever, we've got a, level 3 this, given all this very relevant information that was totally cryptic. And the call taker
Right.
says, okay, that's great. What do you need? And where do you need it? In the future,
Right.
it'll be, oh my God, I've got this. Hey, Chevron, we've got 5 units. Confirm the ingress point is going to be gate 31. Yep,
Right.
great, good to go. Bye. Everybody knew what's
Yeah.
going on, and it didn't change the response. It changed the efficiency of the response
Right.
in a positive way. So,
Right.
yeah, 911, where's your emergency? My God, the fact that we still have to ask that is just, it drives me crazy.
Well, hopefully those types of things are changing, and I think the news we got this week about the latest report and order, I think that just it validates that location accuracy is a high priority of the FCC, and we're trying to get that, improve that as quickly as possible. I know there's plenty of places around the world that now, the location accuracy that's so good that they don't even ask the question. They take what's on the screen as gospel because it's so good 99.9% of the time that they don't need to. For us in the US, that's, somewhat hard to believe, but there are some countries where that's already happening. And to think that we're that far behind on that part of it is also a little bit mind-numbing as well.
And for those that don't follow the legislative closely, there was an FCC report and order. There were a couple of petitions requesting the extension of the requirement to improve indoor wireless location accuracy from some dates that are coming up pretty quickly and wanting to extend it out by a significant amount of time. And it has already been extended twice, I think at least. And the FCC said, no, you're not extending this anymore. You're not going to kick the can down the street. You're going to fix the problem. It's been demonstrated to us there are new technologies, handset-based technologies, different protocols, whatever you want to call them. The capabilities are there to fix this today, and that's been demonstrated to us. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was kind of a hard nut to swallow to some people, but enough is enough. And kudos to those who made that decision.
Yeah, and I think it's significant the 5-0 vote on it as well. I mean that it was in unison 100% that every commissioner agreed that it just not be pushed. It's time to get it done. So.
Yep. And you've got people like the chairman of Jeet Pi who spends time in PSAPs when he's out in the field. You've got Mike O'Reilly's not there anymore, but Jessica Rosenworcel, right? Commissioner Mignon. All of them, when they were there, have been, over the last 5-6 years, I think there has been a very noticeable increase in FCC participation, specifically in 911. And they've got TV, radio, they've got a lot of stuff that they look
a lot of
after.
stuff to take care of, yeah.
And public safety has been top of mind with the commission. I'm going to say for the last 7-8 years, at least.
I'd agree with that.
So it's great. So again, that 5-0 vote, no, I'm sorry, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to get into the politics behind that, But anybody's welcome to read up on that. And I think pretty much anybody who does is going to say, yeah, enough is enough.
Right.
It's, again, the people that have changed this, Uber, Domino's, and the others. Hey, I can get a pizza to you, and I can provide you status when Lisa has put it in the oven. If I can do all that, you should be able to get somebody with a Band-Aid to where I need them pretty darn quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, it's amazing that it's just taken this long to get to this point, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I've got a gift for you today.
Gift with purchase?
No purchase available. I'm going to allow you to add to your certifications New York City CPR. Because I don't think you're specifically certified there.
No, I'm not.
I'm going to train you, and I'm going to certify you as a trainer for New York City CPR.
Okay.
You ready?
Sounds interesting. I'm ready.
Hey, breathe or you'll freaking die. There you go. That's what I got to do. That's it.
Do I have to take a test on that one?
You're now certified. That's it.
I love it. That's
Especially
awesome.
valid during these times of COVID. No contact. You know, hey, yo, breathe or you'll die. Somebody told me that many, many years ago, and I just think that's the funniest thing.
I love it.
Well, listen, my friend, I really appreciate you sitting down. Not only are you a wealth of knowledge, but single-handedly, you are doing a lot to train the trainers, train the public, train the call takers. What you do is so important in this next generation era. I don't think you get nearly enough credit for what you do out there. So,
Well,
thank
you very much, Fletch, and thanks for all that you do to help spread the word about our industry and our 911 family. You know, I don't know how many times I've been on your podcast over the years, but I look forward to the opportunity every time you give it to me, and I appreciate all that you're doing. And you know, just I'm sitting here. I yesterday got my new copy of the ENP study guide, and I'm looking at that, and I'm seeing my ENP certificate in the back of behind me on the wall, and you know, the work that you've done to help spread the word on that is very much appreciated. All that you've done over the years is appreciated too. And you know, I think I'll just leave it at this as we walk out or close this up. Leadership, you know, this is about leadership, and I think leadership today is needed more than any. We are so desperate to find leaders who are willing to stand up and do the right thing and say when something is wrong and when things need to be changed, and be willing to step into the fray and understand that nothing, you know, I guess an old quote, I think it's from John Wayne, maybe not, I'm not really sure, but you know, nothing worth doing is easy. And so this is a good time right now in 911. It's not very easy right now. We're doing a lot of different stuff between COVID and information about bias and making sure that every person that we serve is treated with fairness and equity. And, you know, all of those things combined, it takes true leaders. And I hope that leaders and the people who are watching this today or listening to it are inspired to become those next generation leaders for sure.
Thanks very much, Ty. Those are unbelievable words, and I'm glad to see that manual finally in print form. A lot of people put a lot of work into that. And, again, one of the things that I looked at, I stood up early and said, these graphics need to be brought into a common form, and they need to be updated. And we spent a lot. I can't tell you how much time we spent, a little subgroup, on just cleaning up the graphics that are in that manual and making them align better with the text and the verbiage. That was a big task in itself that had just been ignored for years and years. And there's probably about 5 or 6 people that got together, and we just focused on that for months. And it is really great to see that in print. Yeah. Thanks very much. That's great. Great manual. That pretty much had a complete rewrite top to bottom in this.
Yeah, it does. I read it, well, not read it all, but I skimmed through it last night, and obviously a lot of improvements I saw in it in just a quick skim of it. And so I appreciate the work that you did and all of the committee that worked on it, because I think it was time to get it done. We never expected and never really wanted a manual or a class to be able to be the one thing that helps get somebody certified. But this, I think, filled in some gaps that were grossly needed to be filled in. And I really appreciate especially the work that you did on the graphics, because I think bringing those to a more of a consistency will help to answer a lot of questions that people have. It makes it easier for people to understand, and so that's a truly important thing for sure.
Well, the next step, I think, from that, just to give you a little preview, we talked about having standard NENA graphics library, right? So that when people are doing documentation, I need a call taker icon, use this, then it's consistent across all the documentation. So that's going to be a future thing that everybody can utilize that's doing documentation.
Yeah, and that's something that we've been building on the education side for a while. And we have, on some things, we've been very consistent on graphics. I think for us, we don't always have a ton of graphics in a lot of our classes in regards to some of the stuff that we're talking about here. But, I think more than anything for us, and one of the benefits that we've had as in our training is just the consistency of message. That understanding that when you come to a NENA class, you're going to find one consistent answer of what leadership is, or you're going to find one consistent answer about this or that, whatever that is, that it's consistent among all of the courses. When I came 8-9 years ago, that was not always the answer. So, it's been a long, hard journey, and we're working towards that. And, I know that there's a number of us on staff that are working to try and build up that library. And I think that will actually, be a very big benefit to the 911 industry for sure.
Yeah. So I can tell you that book was gone over literally word by word, sentence by sentence, by a group of probably 20 or 30 people. And that took a lot. I mean, there were days when we had a 2-hour meeting and we got through a page of the hundreds of pages. And I can tell you every word of every sentence, every comma, and every period was examined, analyzed, debated, and it was brutal. But the outcome is probably a document that is going to be well remembered far into the future as, wow, that's great. That's a great base to work forward. And you've got to do that every once in a while, right?
Yeah, it reminds me, the conversation you just shared with that, it reminds me of those days when I was on the NENA Institute board, and we had hour-long conversations and fights about questions on the exam and the distractors, and everybody always says, well, if you're on the NENA Institute board, you don't have to recertify while you're on the board. And I was like, yeah, but you have to take the test twice in one day. You got to fight and holler about every
Every year you
question.
got to take the test twice in
Yeah,
one day.
exactly. I don't know that it may not be quite fair, the not having to recertify, because most people like us could get enough points in one year to recertify. It might be a little easier just to do that. So I don't know. It's always a lot of fun, though. It's always good stuff.
It is. The pressure of failing is not there, certainly, because I've taken the test twice, because when I recertified, I wanted to take the test because I wanted the new questions, right? So the 2 times I did recertify, I actually took the test. And I tell you, I was sweating as much as I was the first time I took that test. And,
Right.
So that stress factor is not there. But now it's like, oh, I gotta answer this long test, and I gotta do it twice in one day with a lunch break in the middle. Oh my God.
I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, who came up with that? What's going on? All right, Ty. Listen, how's Carrie doing? Give my best to Carrie, by the way.
Doing well. Big news on her front in the next week or so. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice to see a NENA family.
Yeah.
Well, listen, my friend, thank you very much. This has been one of the more valuable Future Maker sessions that we've had, and very informative from really, I think, the core at what the focus of this is building that next generation of leaders. Planting the seeds is not enough. You got to cultivate, grow them, and then harvest them.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
behind all that is training.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the center, the core of everything. And if you don't have people who fully understand what they're supposed to be doing, you're never going to get them to meet their full potential. So.
Absolutely. So real quick, got to recertify you in New York CPR. How do you do it?
Breathe, or you're going to die.
There you go. You need to work on the accents. Hey, yeah, yo, breathe or you freaking die. You got to get the accent a little better, but that's okay.
Okay.
That was your first certification.
I'll continue to work on that.
You work on that next time we have a podcast. I'll recertify you then.
Okay, sounds great.
Mr. Wooten, thank you very much. Ty Wooten ENP, who's the training director at NENA, the National Emergency Number Association. Very important person in our industry, securing the next generation of 911 leadership. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Fletch.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Next Gen 911 Future Makers. Thanks so much for joining me today. This is Fletch. I'm the Vice President of Public Safety at 911 Inform. Remember to like and subscribe below and hit that bell to be notified whenever a new Future Makers podcast is published. Remember, you can subscribe to the audio version of this at www.ng911futuremakers.com. Once again, this is Fletch. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Fletch911, and you can check out the rest of my blogs and podcasts at www.fletch.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.